friends, what's up? My name is Joss from squibblesreads and welcome to my March Wrap Up and April TBR. I read a ton of books in March and everyone that I mentioned in the video will be linked in the down bar below. My favorite two books were Burial Rites by Hannah Kent, which I gave 5 stars, and Shelter by Jung Yoon, which I gave 4 stars. I would really highly encourage you to watch this video because it is really important to me. It's called Two Thought-Provoking Books and I will link it in the down bar below. Okay, so I finished up Hidden Bodies by Caroline Kepnes, which is a sequel to You, a psychological thriller that is written in second person that I finished in 2015 and adored. Unfortunately, our protagonist, the creepy man Joe, got so watered down and diluted in Hidden Bodies that he was really mellowed out and annoying, and it was a big letdown for me. I feel like if Caroline Kepnes had not set the bar so high with You that I wouldn't have been so disappointed, and I gave Hidden Bodies 2 stars. However, have no fear, if you enjoyed You, I also read Perfect Days by Rafael Montes, which I talked about in more detail in my first Thrillers and More Thursday video, which I will link down below, but it's about Teo, who is a Brazilian med school student. He does not like people so much, but he really connects with the cadavers in his lab. He becomes obsessed with a strong, sassy, bisexual female screenwriter named Clarice, and he kidnaps her and takes her on this road trip all around Brazil. It's just as creepy as You, but with more social commentary on race, feminism, and sexual identity. I cannot say enough good things about Perfect Days, so if you liked You, I would recommend picking up Perfect Days over Hidden Bodies. I went on a road trip and listened to Ready Player One by Ernest Cline, which was narrated by Will Wheaton. We are in the year 2044 and our protagonist Wade is totally immersed in the virtual reality called the Oasis. The creator of the Oasis left behind a cash prize, but you have to solve all of his riddles and get to know his personal life if you want to get the prize. In terms of character, plot, setting development, the pacing, and the humor, everything was on point. I loved how it truly highlighted the ups and downs of strong online presence. How the friendships that we make in a virtual setting are no less meaningful to the people involved than those in real life, but also some dangerous risks that could happen if someone becomes obsessed with a virtual reality or becomes obsessed with anything else. I was really ready to give it 5 stars, but we reached this point in the book where Cline describes how people may not be who they seem online. He explained in depth why the reasons for concealing one's identity may be pertinent for that person's life, but then at the end of the passage stated that the person's gender, race, sexual identity, etc. doesn't matter. This gave me inklings of the term called colorblindness, which means not appreciating and acknowledging important parts of a person's identity. I'm going to link an article that explains this term so much better in the down bar below. Unfortunately, this let me down so much that I ended up docking it half a star, so I gave the book 4.5 stars in total. Vivian from Lamp Sunnies and I decided to reread through the whole Hunger Games trilogy together, and in March we finished Catching Fire and Mockingjay. It was super fun comparing our old thoughts with our current thoughts and also the movies with the books. I gave Catching Fire 3.5 stars and I gave Mockingjay 2.5 stars. Then I read This Is Where It Ends by Marika Nijkamp. It's about a school shooting, which is a totally difficult topic to tackle, but it really paled in comparison to books that I loved like Hateless by Jennifer Brown and 19 Minutes by Jodi Picoult. This Is Where It Ends was told from the point of view of 4 characters, but none of them were really fleshed out at all. They were kind of flat and mushed together in my mind, and for a topic that's so character driven, it was really disappointing, so I ended up giving it 1.75 stars. Next up we have Kindred Spirits, a short story that was just released by Rainbow Rowell. It's about a girl named Elena who is a huge Star Wars fan and is waiting in line a few days before the premiere of episode 7. I loved that she is an Asian female protagonist. I also loved how it explored the pride around being a nerd and kind of how it became trendy over time, and how that changes the protectiveness that people can feel about their fandom. However, I don't think it hit me quite as hard as Rainbow Rowell intended. It frustrates me when in short fiction there are these huge issues that are introduced at the beginning of the story and then not fleshed out, and they kind of loom over the whole story, and that totally happened here, so I ended up giving it 3 stars. The next book I really loved, and it is The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry by Gabrielle Zevin. It is a whimsical story of a widowed bookstore owner who one day comes to his store and finds a mysterious package waiting for him that changes his life. It was so heartwarming with all the bookish references and the unique, memorable characters, so I gave it 4.5 stars. Next we have a buddy read. I read Some Girls Are by Courtney Summers with Elena. It's about a girl named Regina who is part of the popular crowd at her high school, but she was sexually assaulted by her best friend's boyfriend, and the friends in this crowd don't believe her and they ostracize her. This book was kind of like an incomplete, one-dimensional version of What We Saw by Aaron Hartzler, which I read in February and loved. The characters all seemed really one-dimensional, and on top of that, in the middle of the book, there was this super grotesque, blatant, in-your-face bullying scene that took place in the middle of the school, and it was really messy, and there were no adults around, no teachers that even saw this or decided to comment on it at all. Absent adults is a theme that I see and dislike in some YA books, so I was really disappointed and I gave it 2.5 stars. In my very first Hidden Gems video, I mentioned The Housekeeper and the Professor by Yoko Ogawa, and I finally got to it in March. It's a short story about a woman who is hired to take care of a retired math professor who experienced a traumatic brain injury, leaving him with short-term memory that can only hold 80 minutes worth. The book had a quiet, meandering storyline with no real plot, but it emphasized communication in any language and cherishing relationships. I loved it and I gave it 4 stars. I also read Am I Normal Yet by Holly Bourne with Kate from Girl Reading, and I hardcore struggled to write this book. It's about a girl named Evie who experiences a lot of distressing symptoms from her OCD diagnosis, and she is also struggling to find her way in the dating pool at her high school, which appears to be all Caucasian and all heterosexual. So first of all, the messages about not perpetuating mental health appropriation really resonated with me, and it destroys the stigma intentionally and obviously. However, it's marketed as a book about feminism, but the feminism that's purported is not intersectional and not inclusive at all. I honestly can't advocate for this book as a comprehensive view of feminism that supports all females and not just ones of privilege. Also, these passages with the social commentary disrupted the momentum of the book, in that it was either lecturing about these things or plot movement. There was no in between. It wasn't really interwoven very well at all, and it was jarring and awkward to read. It had some strengths, but also some glaring gaps, so I gave it 3 stars. The next book I read was Uprooted by Naomi Novik, and this was a buddy read with Jessica from Between Stories. And I was a really terrible buddy reader, and I abandoned her. I DNF'd this book at 55%. So where was the character development in Uprooted? Because what I saw were some fairy tale elements, but also really blatant. Number 1, the awkward, gaunt, messy type girl. Number 2, her gorgeous, perfect best friend. And number 3, the brooding, mysterious, kinda sexy villain tropes. And it's like Naomi Novik just stopped there. I can't name 5 characteristics of Agnieszka outside of her trope. There was so much action going on, but I tried and tried so hard and I could not bring myself to care about any of these characters because they were like empty, hollow shells of tropes. Also, in comparison to Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, where the magic system was complete and wonderfully fleshed out, this magic system was convenient at best. I could not finish the book and I gave it 1 star. Finally, I read 2 graphic novels this month. The first one is Blue is the Warmest Color by Julie Moreau. It starts off with a girl named Emma reading the diary of her ex Clementine, who has just passed away. We learn about Clementine's struggles with her sexual identity and with her relationship with Emma. I gave it 3.5 stars because it was translated from French, but the translation was stilted and super awkward in some places, and this made it really choppy and strange to read. The message was really powerful, but the translation dragged it down for me, unfortunately. And the second graphic novel that I read was called The Outside Circle by Patty LaBoucane Benson. I went over this one in a little more detail in my Hidden Gems video, which I will link down below, but it's about 2 Aboriginal brothers who get caught up in a lot of drug abuse and gang violence. They find healing through Aboriginal traditions and community. I can tell that the author put a lot of research into this book, and also the artwork made it feel serious and gritty. I loved it and gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, so we are finally at my April TBR. First of all, I am hosting Genrethon from April 10th to 17th, which I have said 5 million times on my channel, but I'm really excited for it. I picked out 5 different books in 5 genres, so my TBR and announcement video will be linked down below. I finished The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater in March, and I gave it 4.5 stars, and a bunch of us booktubers are in a chat where we are reading through the rest of the Raven cycle, so I will get to The Dream Thieves and Blue Lily Lily Blue in April too. Me and Elena are trying to find a book that we both enjoy in April, so we're going to be reading Annabelle by Kathleen Winters. It's about an intersex person who was named Wayne at birth, but also has a shadow self called Annabelle. We are also reading a thriller called The Girl in the Red Coat by Kate Hamer with Brittany from Under the Radar Books and Lauren from Lauren in the Books. Finally, my booktube recommends Jones's pick for April is The Girl in 6E by A.R. Torrey, which was recommended to me by Chelsea at Chelsea Darling Reads. Alright, so that is it for now. If you guys have any comments, questions, or anything else, please leave it down below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!